Two cruise missiles aimed at Zaporizhzhia passed over the nuclear power plant. At 9 a.m. local time, the shelling ceased. The Russians have been trying to capture this facility almost from the beginning of the war in Ukraine. A similar attack took place yesterday, then manoeuvring missiles flew over the nuclear power plant in Khmelnyk. The low-altitude rocket flight just above the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, where there are 7 nuclear reactors and a large amount of nuclear material, pose a huge risk. Rockets hitting nuclear facilities pose the risk of a nuclear disaster. Because of the growing threat, the authorities of towns in the south of Ukraine are preparing for a potential attack by Russian troops. We have to prepare. It is very important because the enemy is tricky. We do not know what his next steps will be. We must prepare to defend the city. We are building security measures that will save the lives of our soldiers and allow us effectively to defend the city. Meanwhile, in Mariupol, a port city that became a symbol of the war in Ukraine, the inhabitants began removing rubble from the destroyed city. We have to rebuild the city after this whole war game. See for yourself what it looks like. It's quiet now, but only for now. We lost everything, absolutely everything. Everything we've worked for. We just don't know what to do now, where to start. The district prosecutor's office in Kharkiv announced that the Russian invaders had created a concentration camp in occupied Volchansk in which they were torturing residents. On the other hand, Kryvyi Rih, the hometown of Vladimir Zelensky, which is an important industrial centre of Ukraine, is to be the next target of the Russian attack. I left my city on the 8th day of war, and 2 days later my husband died of heart problems. He was buried in the garden under a tree, as there were no vacancies in the cemetery. I have nowhere to go. I'm here with my sister. If they say everything is fine, I'll go home. From the beginning of the war, that is from the end of February to the beginning of March, about 150 to 200 people came to us every day. Now, because of the continuing armed conflict, the daily number of people flowing in is already over 500, 600 and sometimes even 1,000. We will accept as many people as we can. We will do everything to help those in need. We have concluded an agreement with the Russians on a green evacuation corridor, but the Russians blocked them completely. 10 buses and 6 ambulances drove up to their checkpoint. They kidnapped the head of this column, Machuk Vladimir Vladimirovich. They fired on a humanitarian convoy. Then they started shooting our soldiers hiding behind this convoy. They used this as a shield, knowing our soldiers would not fire. Since the beginning of the invasion of Ukraine, Russian forces have lost over 22,000 soldiers, nearly 920 tanks and 340 aircraft and helicopters. And these are certainly not the last losses they will suffer. Ukrainians are defending the country tirelessly and are not going to stop. The morale and strength of the Ukrainian soldiers is incredible. The Russians are terrified by this, very surprised and amazed at this state of affairs. This is something we should follow by example, and Poland is doing very well here. The Russian troops sped up the operation only to delay the supply of new forces and weapons to the Ukrainians. But the Ukrainians have done their homework and are always half a step ahead of the Russian troops. Since the beginning of the invasion in Ukraine, Poland has been supporting its eastern neighbour. Both the state and ordinary citizens are involved in helping. As I have the opportunity to talk to Polish friends, for everything Poland has done for our nation, I bow my head to every Pole, to your authority and to you personally. Please accept our gratitude. Receive our bow. We see, know and feel your brotherly help. We will be happy if we can help too. According to the United Nations, almost 30 million Ukrainians have already left their homes as a result of the Russian invasion, and almost 8 million of them are internally displaced persons, that is, people who did not leave Ukraine. In turn, over 5 million people have already left their country, and over 2 million have found refuge in Poland. It is the biggest migration crisis in the modern world.